Hi everyone, it's Don and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Well, let's update you on what's going on with the Norway cruise, another Norway cruise that has quarantined people, and the Fiji cruise. What's going on? So first off, let's talk about the Hurtigruten. I think that's how you pronounce it. I apologize. I'm not Norwegian. I'm doing my best. I'm Canadian, and how's it going, eh? But their cruise lines that they shut down because they had 33 passengers, crew members who tested positive, and now they shut down and they were tested. Well, 9 passengers have now tested positive of the 177 that were on the ship, and there's still more test results waiting. So it does look like it is a slow spread, and hopefully it's contained to these 9 people. It doesn't grow any longer than that. Trouble with this is, like I said, once again, that these cruise lines often act as ferries that people get off and on at different ports. They don't just go from one place to a final destination. They're not just doing shore excursions. They actually get off and go into other communities and stay there. So the trouble with this is it could literally have affected 65 communities from the people on this cruise ship. So it's just that is a disaster waiting to happen. And even the cruise lines came out and they said their procedures failed. And one of the big procedures I found out that they did incorrectly. So yesterday we talked about the tests, right, in Alaska. Taking tests before you get on the ship, quarantining before you get on the ship, having another test, getting an all clear test, and then getting on the ship. Well, what they did for the crew members coming in is they had to take the tests before leaving their country. They got negative, no problem. Flew them in, took another test, and then they said they're going to quarantine them for 14 days. Trouble is, they quarantined them for 14 days on the ship and considered that a quarantine area where they were allowed to go about and do their duties. Well, that's not quarantining. That's mixing with the rest of your crew. So it only takes one person to have come on board to have spread it to everybody, and that is apparently what looks like has happened. So not a great, their procedures failed, completely failed in this case. There's also another cruise ship in Norway, I believe it's called the Sea Dream, and it was the first cruise line that offered cruises internationally to everybody who was allowed to sail there, fly there, they could sail. It wasn't just one country of residence. They were allowing everybody to do it. Well, they just ended up having to turn around and head back into port and isolate about another 100 and some passengers and another 100 and some crew members, about 200 people in all, into their cabins while they await test results, because nobody on this ship and this sailing tested positive. It was somebody who got off the ship on the previous cruise and then tested positive a few days later after getting off the ship. Was it anything to do with this ship? We don't know, but they shut down the ship, shut down the cruise line immediately because somebody tested positive who had been on a cruise. I don't know. The best news we could hope for in that particular case is that nobody on board this cruise has contracted the virus. Everybody comes up negative, and it looks like that person may have caught it after they left the ship. Although it was a very quick amount of time. It had been like only 2 or 3 days since they left the ship that they tested positive. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully there's not more people on this ship that gets discovered, because it's just turning into a complete disaster in Norway, a complete disaster in Norway. I don't know what they're doing, and Norway just canceled all cruise ships. Anybody over 100 passengers, no cruising allowed for 14 days while they evaluate the situation and reevaluate the procedures that are in place. And if you think there were strict procedures before, you can Bet your bottom dollar there's going to be a lot stricter in the future. Okay, now on to Fiji, the Paul Gauguin cruise. Well, so far it's still only the one passenger, and they have been transported and isolated now. They are still quarantined. All the other crew members and all the other passengers have tested negative. So that is great news there. Their procedures seem to have worked, and passengers have actually begun heading home after receiving the negative tests. Trouble that we're going to have to face and watching this going forward is if any of those passengers in the future, within like the next 3 days or 4 days, actually come up positive. Because then they're going to say, well, let's see what's going on, because if you can test negative and then test positive 3 days later, does testing do anything, right? Will testing just be a waste of time then? Because, I mean, if there's really, if you're in the early stages of contracting it and a test comes up negative, every time, but you do have it, then testing just does nothing. And that would go for anything. That's going into your workplace, that's going into shops, taking your temperature checks. All that stuff is useless if any of these passengers actually get sick from the virus within the next 2 or 3 days. So we're going to have to watch this one also very, very closely. So many things, so many problems. The cruise line industry just cannot catch a break anywhere right now. At least this one was contained to one person. And we know there is absolutely no way in this world you're going to keep that virus away from every place in the world. It's going to be everywhere. It's going to be in your Walmarts. It's going to be in your shopping centers. It's going to be in your beaches. It's going to be in your bars. It's going to be in the movie theaters. It's going to be on the airplanes. And it's going to be in the cruise ships. There's nothing you can do to solve it. The problem is, what do you do once it's discovered? How do you react to once it's discovered? Well, I have a cruise line that's trying to propose to get started in the Mediterranean, and stay tuned for that video in the next couple days, because I think they are offering something right now that maybe all the cruise lines are going to have to start offering. Well, I hope you appreciate this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Want to see more tips, more tricks, more travel vlogs from around the world? Hit that subscribe button. Till next time, have yourself a safe and a great vacation.